Yeah, and,
I wish I'd have known, cause I'd like to have listened in.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I hope so, I did,
Sure.
but I was hoping to talk with you about that, but about just the structure of the agreement and stuff too.
Okay.
But if he's not able to attend, I think so, I might talk to
I was gonna text him or is someone already,
I shot him a text,
okay.
he hasn't responded.
Yeah, so I can start giving background on this in case he's, oh, no, but do you need to go? Go ahead.
I'm just gonna get my computer turned in.
And then I'll give us a few minutes.
Yeah, okay, and then I can get rolling.
So, yeah, like I said, so if you want, I can give some background on this to kind of update while we wait for Sheriff's Department if you like.
Yeah, that sounds good, I'll just quickly open it up. Yeah, so, okay, great. 11:33 AM on December 19th, 2024, we are here for a special meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. Just one agenda item to discuss the contract with Axon for the Sheriff's Office. So yeah, Chris, if you wanna go ahead.
Are we recording?
Yeah, there's
Oh,
recording.
yeah. Yeah.
So, a couple of you might recall, or I know Sarah probably remembers this agreement. This is the agreement, this is a renewal of agreement that was unilaterally signed by former Sheriff Amy Reyes. And it has, it's a pretty expensive, agreement, but it is also something essential because the requirements,
Required, yeah.
it's, the equipment and stuff is required. It is a 5-year agreement. The total amount, I think it's like
243.
43, almost
Yeah,
$250,000. And the
For the 5 years or per year?
5 years, but it is, each year, it is a lump sum payment that has to be made. And once that payment is made, it is not refundable. One of the concerns I had, and I was hoping to talk to Heath about this, one of the terms in the agreement, the master services agreement, is that if, for example, over that 5 years, the equipment changes or is upgraded or that kind of stuff, that expense isn't included in the fee. Instead, if the county wanted the upgraded equipment or something like that, they'd have to pay an additional amount representative of the difference between the MSRP for the existing equipment the county has and the new equipment. Even if, let's say, it changes in year 4 or 5, and the existing equipment obviously is antiquated and not worth its, MSRP or whatever, but whatever the additional amount is. So that's one concern that I have with this, is that essentially it doesn't hear, and there's no obligation for them to tell the county if the equipment's upgraded. So, or to offer to the county, so it's almost like we have to keep track of where they are in their product development to make sure if we need. And part of this, that all these type of technology things where they try to lock you into this 5-year term with specific equipment concerns me, because then technology is usually moving faster than we are in terms of its development. That we could end up getting stuck with something that I want us to avoid another Motorola situation where we go to new equipment and suddenly there's this domino that affects the other equipment that talks to that equipment and all that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up, and I didn't know if he was aware of that.
Well, also, just on that point, if we have 4 years of experience with it, oh, I mean, maybe we have some experience on how problematic that has or hasn't been.
Yeah,
I can
well, and
speak
I
to that
wanted
as
to,
well.
yeah, I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that the equipment, that this, cause it is a renewal, I wanna make sure that it is new, all new
Yeah.
equipment and stuff that we're getting now. It's not just transferring the equipment we have into this
The
new
new
5-year
agreement,
one.
Yeah, so I mean, to answer that, there's two pieces of equipment that we're getting new body cams and then the tasers. The body cams are free as part of a agreement from the previous contract, where we return all of our Model 3s and we get upgraded to Model 4s.
Okay.
Axon also writes in that every 2.5 years, give or take, if they come out with a new model, they will replace those cameras again for free.
That is not in the contract,
And so that's on their website, so
that is not in the contract.
Okay.
So
The
that,
website, the
that's a
website is
concern.
immaterial.
Yeah,
If the county's gonna sign this, it has to be in the contract.
And we can
And it's
add that in.
inevitable that technology, there's gonna be leaps and bounds in technology in the next
Sure.
5 years.
And that's the body cameras.
Yeah.
So if they come out with, they came out with the 4, I think, I don't remember how many years ago, but we've been using the 3s and they're perfectly fine. The body cams work really well. The tasers are guaranteed for 5 years. That's the big expense here. So if we wanted to replace the body cams, we could definitely work that out with Axon. And like I said, we could have that 2.5 years that they claim in their website written into the contract. I'm sure that's something their legal could put in.
the
That's what they,
concern, yeah, the concern is
Yeah.
that this
Yeah,
has
yeah,
not
yeah,
been
sure.
today,
It's
that's why
not
we're doing
written in.
special.
yeah, and we could definitely add that in. But that's my understanding is they guarantee those for 2.5 years, although they tend to work far longer than that. The tasers are guaranteed for 5 years. And that is the expense that keeps going up in price, because they do continue to improve their tasers. So we are upgrading from the 7 to a 10, but that cost there's no increase in price. That's just what Axon's tasers are now. Does that make sense?
What are the tech differences between the 7 and 10 models?
There's a few different changes. The 7 and 10s, that refers to the cartridge size.
Mhm.
So there's a larger cartridge. The 10s are able to be deployed at a little bit of a shorter range, but they don't work with contact. So officers wouldn't be able to use them skin to skin contact, but they can deploy them at a closer range, like 2 to 5 feet, versus the 7s are recommended for a further distance.
So basically, you lose the drive stun
Yeah.
capacity.
That's
with
really the
10.
main change, because they're trying to go away from that, because they found that with this new type of taser, the way it deploys, you can deploy it in a lot more variable situations. And so you don't have to get all the way up to a subject, you can deploy it from 2 feet away instead of going all the way up. Whereas with the 7s, you really had a choice between distance or skin to skin contact.
And
So
it's still using those wired barbs, right?
Yes, but these ones can also go through clothing a
How
little
much
more
clothing?
efficiently. I think it's like a typical jacket, it wouldn't go through a winter coat.
Mhm.
But your typical t-shirts, jackets, things like that. So that also improves officer safety because it can be deployed in more situations, whereas the other ones weren't always guaranteed to go through clothing. They worked very, very well, as you can usually see, from our situations where fortunately we didn't have to use them very often, but they have worked well. But these ones are gonna work just a little bit better. And like I said, there's no price increase for that. Axon is going to increase all of their prices up 15% if we don't sign this agreement. That's also a big concern of ours. Talking with our rep, right now, because we're in the renewal, they're waiving that 15% increase for us. If we renew after their deadline, which we have extended, it's gonna go up 15%.
Yeah, and the thing is the existing agreement, if I recall correctly, isn't expiring now, it doesn't expire this month, this is a promotion, if you will, an incentive to renew early,
Yes,
with
And
the existing agreement.
we get that credit back, the $22,000 that overlaps because we're renewing early. That's gonna be a credit return from what we've already paid from last
Okay.
year.
So, but that's my concern is in terms of with the equipment and stuff, that I'm sorry if it's not in the actual document, it doesn't exist.
But we
Okay.
can include in our motion that very specifically, and then you guys can work to,
Yeah, if
Have
you
it
can,
included in there.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, my
especially
understanding was
within
that it was
year.
written in their warranty, is that the body cams were 2.5 years and then the tasers were
Well,
5 years.
the warranty is not what I'm worried about, I'm worried about the
Okay.
pricing on it.
Yeah.
And to, what you said is that your understanding is if something new comes out, that we can exchange it
Yes, after that 2.5 year mark, they'll exchange it for free.
for free, and that's not, the contract doesn't say that, we have to pay for the upgraded equipment under
Okay,
the contract right now. So, my suggestion, especially since it's just if you'd approve pending final legal review, and we'll work to try to get it finalized today, cause it needs to be signed today from what I
Yeah.
understand.
And because of that 50% increase, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And that's why we're getting free body cams this year as well. So this cost is just for the tasers.
Well, replacement, yeah.
Yeah, and if so we might lose that as well if we don't sign.
Can
We
I,
have to pay.
the bundles here, like
Mhm.
from, not having this conversation with the last administration,
Yeah,
is everything included here something that you guys have seen that you've been using?
yeah, so all the bundles I've chipped away at as far to the basics as I can.
Okay,
Cause I'm the one that uses pretty much most of those services as well as dispatch.
okay,
So there's no really bells and whistles there. It is the cameras and the officer safety plan is where the cameras and the tasers link up. So every time a taser is pulled, everybody's cameras turn on. That's included in that bundle so that we can track that. Evidence redaction is included in that bundle, which I use for sending to the DA or to records requests. Evidence storage, unlimited, so it doesn't matter how much we record, that's all included. And then some of those other features like respond is included in that bundle. And that is a feature where if our officers are out, we can GPS locate their cameras, and if there's an emergency situation, we can even live feed their cameras back to us.
Oh,
So for something like, God forbid, a school
Yeah.
shooting, that's something that would be useful.
yeah,
And like I said, that's not something we've had to use yet, knock on wood, but it is included in that officer safety bundle. It's all systems that talk to each other so that we can track where the officers are and what they're doing.
yeah. And like some of these quantities, I'm assuming these are they're one-time use sort of things with the taser?
Like
Like the
what,
400 Axon Taser cartridge live, Axon Taser
Oh,
cartridge
yeah.
halt, inert,
mhm.
400, 120, 200, are those?
Yeah, and they seem like really high quantities, and that's because the tasers, once they deploy, that's only one cartridge.
Yeah,
And so we obviously aren't using that many cartridges, but over a 5-year period, it's usually for recertification and testing and training that we're gonna go through those cartridges.
okay,
Yeah.
And that's where you're gonna go through a lot more. I don't have the exact number of cartridges that we go through, but they have to be recertified, I wanna say every 2 years. And so that whole entire training process is gonna burn through a lot. And that's the other reason that Axon wants us to replace these tasers, is after that 5-year lifespan, they will not certify our officers. And that's directly from them, and there's no other companies, I've shopped around with, G-Tech and Motorola, they don't work with tasers, it's pretty much just Axon.
That's
and
the only taser manufacturer out there?
I'm sure there's others, but it's the industry standard, and I haven't found any that will do that certification, that's really, like I said, the industry standard for officers. And that's what's important, is we want our officers to be certified in that standard. Cause if we're below, it just doesn't look good for our department. If we're not certified, that doesn't mean they can't use those tasers after the 5-year lifespan, but if something goes wrong and, we get sued for taser deployment, Axon will not back us. Because that taser is not backed by Axon, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they engineer these devices to have a limited lifespan so they can keep selling them and keep.
It's a business
keep-
model, of course.
Yeah, it is, man,
But-
these things can last a lot longer than that, but they don't want it to
course.
because they wanna keep selling
Yeah.
equipment.
but without the certification, it's kind of risky for our officers to go out and be using
Oh, no, I
those
get it,
tasers.
that's why they do this, because
course.
then that basically, you keep our device beyond the recommended user lifespan at your own risk, right?
Yes,
And who wants that, right?
exactly.
So so
And
they're basically engineering a having to constantly replace their stuff every 5 years.
Yeah,
and just legally, why would they push it? Like, why take that legal risk?
Well, if the thing's, you can, through testing and things like
Yeah.
long-term testing, you can determine whether or not something's gonna be, but I totally get it.
Yeah,
yeah, and so that's why we are kind of backed in a corner a little bit with it, because of the tasers. The
Oh,
body
I know.
cams, I've shopped around, and we can in 5 years reevaluate those. There's lots of other companies that do the body cam work. It's really the tasers. Because that's gonna be, that's something that we try to keep up to date on the most.
How often do they use them?
Last year, I think we had less than 5 taser deployments.
Wow.
which is actually, I know that sounds, but it's a good thing, because we
That
don't.
sounds good to me.
I was like, we don't wanna be
Five
using
times
these
out of
tasers.
365 days,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think
so
that's
I wanna
great.
say it's less than 5. One instance was a taser deployment, if I'm remembering correctly, with multiple officers, which is typically the case. And it was very effective. It was in, I don't wanna go into much detail, but it was in a hospital setting, and so it saved, a lot of, it was a dangerous individual that had to be taken down.
Right,
And so in that instance,
it's
we were
usually the
really,
case.
yeah, I mean, obviously,
Right. I
So
hope
that's-
that was the circumstances.
No, these guys, I mean, we're not going out and using tasers very often. They are pulled very, very often. And that's why that feature of the body cam turning on immediately once they're pulled is good, because we want to track when officers are pulling their tasers. So that happens a lot, and that's a lot of footage that I have, and then they aren't, they assess the situation and they put them back.
So those tasers are equipped with GPS, right?
Yes,
So you can
well, the cameras are and the tasers connect.
okay, so you can reconstruct
Yeah.
the circumstances under which a taser was deployed and actually map out who was standing where and when who
Yes,
discharged the taser first and all that stuff, right?
yes.
You can diagram the circumstances under which the taser was used.
Yeah.
Have you had to do that yet?
Personally, no, but the officers do. That's why they go back and look at their cameras when they write reports,
Mhm.
so that they can get, a clearer version of what happened, and then they sit down with sheriff usually if a taser is deployed, and they all talk about what happened, why, could we have improved, was this the right choice? And in that instance, I know when they sat down and had that, it was a great conversation, and having the body cam footage there was really helpful. So,
Another thing that was not ironed out beforehand, but I think the implementation was 2023 if I'm not mistaken, and maybe we entered into this in 2019, but
2020.
was the software and managing the platform between the DA's office and the sheriff's office, is that something that's, just out of curiosity, is that something that's?
Like the evidence platform?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so evidence.com is Axon's evidence storage, and so that's where we store all of our videos. And you can also use it, I share it with the DA, I share it with CBI, ATF, like I said, it's the industry standard, so I use that platform to easily share when we have cases like fire that we use with other agencies. So that's really easy to do. There are other platforms that exist if we switch from the body cam, but it wouldn't have that capability to connect with the tasers. And that evidence.com, and like I said, includes redaction, unlimited storage, sharing across agencies. You can also use it with community requests. So when we have an instance, we have a witness that has videos on their phone, I can text them a link, they send it to us, it goes right into the evidence case file. We use that a lot. Because people don't really wanna sit down and like give us a USB drive, or, we wanna get those witnesses statements quick and easy before they disappear.
Yeah.
Basically, so it's pretty easy to do that. That's a great feature. As well as, like when we were getting surveillance footage, when there was the incident on Harrison Avenue, I sent out a community link and people were able from all the different businesses to upload their surveillance footage.
Interesting, yeah.
Was this the stabbing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So things like that,
Yeah.
it feels like the community can be involved in our collection process, and I really like that feature. And it just makes it a little bit easier, like I said, because you can send out a text message, so we've got, kids don't wanna talk on the phone or come into the office, I send them a text and they'll send me their footage from their phone.
What's your position?
Evidence tech,
Okay.
so I manage all of this.
Can I have your name?
Shane Doherty,
Okay, thanks.
yeah, sorry, I should have introduced myself, I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure if you guys knew who I was.
Seen you before.
Yeah, so I manage all of this, and so like I said, down the road, after 5 years, if we wanted to switch body cams, I'd be comfortable shopping around for that. I don't have as much knowledge of the tasers, I'd have to get our firearms expert in here to talk about if there are any other options for tasers. So far, we have not found one that's been able to compete.
Okay. And then, forgive me for not remembering, is this budgeted annually for the 53,000 plus already in here?
It's in the sheriff's budget.
It is, okay. Okay.
Credit, yeah, it is built in.
I thought he sent a memo over, maybe that didn't get uploaded for y'all.
Yeah,
Thought
it should
did
be
say.
written in our budget, I believe Erica said that we might have had to increase it a little bit, I think we were spending around $50,000 with the old contract and now it's gone up to 53. But not a huge increase because we're getting more technology. And then during this 5-year contract, there wasn't time to do it now, but I do intend to look at grant opportunities that could help us down the line. That's something that I'm gonna try to prioritize. Since we weren't able to do it at the onset, I'm hoping we can, get some of that back.
Yeah.
There's always yearly opportunities for that.
So just the other final points on this too is that, if I didn't mention it, forgive me if I did not remember what I said. It's an annual fee, each year, it's a lump sum. And it's not refundable if there's any termination or change or anything like that, so once you're making it, you're committing that. Even if there are issues, you terminate the agreement for any reason, even if it's from our side for cost, we don't get a refund of any of those funds. It's also got an automatic 5-year renewal provision in there, so we probably want to calendar to make sure when the payment is made
reminder.
for the 5th year, that with that payment, we send notice of the intent to terminate, so it doesn't automatically renew without us going through this renewal process.
Yeah, and that's why, there was some miscommunication with Axon, we thought we had more time to renew this contract. We weren't aware of their 6-month buffer. And so that's why, at the end of this 5 years, we definitely intend to not have this happen again.
Yeah.
We intend to be much more up to date.
But otherwise, I would recommend, it's a needed service, we need to have it,
Yeah,
it just recommends it be
yeah.
approved, final legal review.
I'll go ahead and approve the Axon Enterprise Incorporated agreement for 60 months. The $242,950.36. Payments spread out annually. Well, actually, I'm gonna take that back, that doesn't
Okay.
sound good. Sounds like you're paying $250,000 annually.
Yeah, and this, the first year sheriff, wanted to put that $22,000 into that first year, so the first year coming up in April, it'll be $30,000. And then it goes up to 53, and that's laid out in the contract.
Okay, I'll move to approve the Axon Enterprise Incorporated contract for 60 months. Being sure to have in writing a replacement plan within that 5-year term.
Replacement, sorry.
So that the contract matches the advertised
they-
information.
Oh,
Information.
yes, the camera, okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the equipment
Yes.
replacement.
Okay, where are you, Cindy? Where's she?
Okay, 5-year plan, okay.
What did you get?
I have being sure to have in writing a plan,
A replacement
a
plan.
replacement plan,
An agreement on the replacement plan,
okay.
an agreement on the
That the
replacement.
contract matches other material representing the replacement schedule and cost.
Yes. That the contract matches other material.
Material,
What he said.
It's like it's a 2.5-year replacement, isn't it, or something?
yeah.
What do you have there, Cindy? Do you need us to repeat that?
No, I have you too.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, okay.
And we
Okay.
have it, we have that discussion recorded, so I think we
Yes.
can,
And it is an optional replacement, if the cameras are working fine and they haven't upgraded to any additional technology, we probably wouldn't need to. I have not had, I think for all the cameras we have about 30 right now, I've only had one malfunction once. And all it needed was to be reset, and then it worked fine again. So really it hasn't been an issue at all.
Second your motion.
Nothing further for me.
then a call for a vote.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye,
thank you.
that is approved. Thanks for working through that,
Yeah, thank you guys, sorry about Sheriff, I'm not sure,
No, that-
he got called into something,
that's okay.
so I'm glad I was here to answer your questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
having been through this before, I think we're glad your position exists.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
managed
me
it.
too. I like doing a job. Like I
Because
said.
it was more chaotic when it did not.
Yeah, so, did you have any other questions about anything else? help you with any of
I
this?
think we're good, thanks.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
At 11:55, we will adjourn.
Okay. Anybody staying in the hill